It's wild how fast a person's entire identity can collapse once real accountability walks into the room. One moment, someone is branding themselves as the fearless truth teller, who will finally pull back the curtain on the darkest scandal of our generation. And the next moment, under the lights of congressional oversight, they're dodging simple questions, refusing eye contact with survivors, and tripping over their own promises as if hoping no one remembers what they said in the first place. That transformation, public warrior to silent gatekeeper, is exactly what Representative Pramila Jayapal exposes in this explosive confrontation, and the deeper you look at it, the harder it is to ignore the pattern. Big talk before power, quiet retreat after seeing the evidence.
Everything changed. You and Attorney General Pam Bondi released one video and said that there was nothing more to see. Your July memo says you uncovered more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence, but that you had decided no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. That is a quote. I think what happened, Mr. Patel, is that suddenly you discovered that Donald Trump's name was all over these files, and you started a giant cover-up. So you are under oath, Mr. Patel. You just testified to Mr. Swalwell that you did not speak to the president about the Epstein files. To your knowledge, did Attorney General Pam Bondi speak to the president about what was in the Epstein files?
I can't speak for Attorney General Pam Bondi.
So to your knowledge, you don't have any information. The question was, do you have any knowledge? Do you have any knowledge?
I can't speak.
You are refusing to answer the question, so let me tell you that the Wall Street Journal reported that in May, Bondi told Trump that he was in the Epstein files, and at the same meeting said that the DOJ did not plan to release the files. Yesterday, you testified to Senator Kennedy that there was, quote, no credible information that Epstein trafficked girls to anyone else, and that you have, quote, continuously and publicly asked the public to come forward with more information, and we'll look into it. Today, in response to Mr. Massey's question, you appeared to say that the survivors were not credible. These are survivors.
That's not at all what I said.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask you this in a second, but let me tell you about the survivors, and let's bring them up here into the room. These are women who came to the Hill and testified that they were groomed and raped at the age of 14 and 16 years old, and they called to meet with the president and to meet with the FBI and to have people investigate their claims. Some of them have never testified before. If you are so interested in getting the public to submit any information, why have you not met with them? You said you haven't met with them. Have you met with them? I'll give you one more chance.
My job as the FBI director is to invite
all investigative leads. Is the answer yes or no to whether or not you met with these women who were sexually abused and raped?
Any insinuation by you or any people on your side that I am not manhunting child predators and sex traffickers, just look at the stats. And you talk about cover-ups, man.
Mr. Chairman,
you talk about cover-ups.
And I will take as much time as
Where were you during the Obama and Biden administrations when these so-called cover-ups were going on? Why didn't anyone in those administrations talk to any of these purported witnesses? I have
some regular order,
every single person to provide credible information.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Washington.
And I'm going to take another couple of minutes.
When you accuse the witness of something, he's allowed to respond. That's how it works.
Listen, he didn't even, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, you have always been fair. But this is not fair. No, this is my time, and he said that the witnesses were not credible.
Seconds of time.
I'm going to get an additional minute of time because that's how much time he took.
You won't get a minute. You'll get some seconds. What we think is under 5 minutes. You don't get to demand how much time you get. That's not how it works.
Mr. Patel, are the victims of the Jeffrey Epstein horrific trafficking ring, are they credible?
Any person with information about ongoing sexual trafficking.
I'm asking you if they're credible.
Ma'am, I'm commenting on the evidence we have. But we have routinely asked for people to come forward with more evidence, and we will look at it. And the evidence that we have was the same evidence that the Biden and Obama Justice Departments had. And they determined, not me, they determined that that information was not credible.
Mr. Chairman, he's not letting me even ask my questions.
You ask the questions, he gives an answer. You may not like what he says,
No,
but that doesn't mean you get to interrupt
he's not
him.
answering my question.
Mr. Chairman, could we restore the gentlelady 45 seconds so she can
We will
complete
give her
her question?
additional 30 seconds, which is what I said
I'm
earlier.
going to keep taking my time because
you'll take
here's
the time
thing.
that you get. You get
are
30
not
seconds.
answering the question. The question
I
is,
have. You just don't like the answer.
Are these women credible? It's a yes or no answer.
I have answered the question.
Well,
and
what
I
is
keep
the
telling
answer?
you, I'm the only FBI director that has welcomed new information in this
Okay.
case. This
You're
administration is the only one that has welcomed any new information in this
Is there
case.
a yes or no to
Present
whether the
new credible
victims are credible?
information. Present new
Are
information.
the victims credible
The victims-
or not?
I'll tell you what happened in the last Trump
Are they
administration.
credible or not? You can't
Victims
even say
credibly came forward, and you know what happened? President Trump authorized the indictments of
President
Jeffrey
Trump
Epstein,
called
not
them
Biden,
a hoax.
not Obama,
President Trump
no one
called
else.
the entire thing a Democratic hoax. So I would like to ask
The
you
gentlelady's
if
time has
you
expired.
will
I gave her
meet-
the additional
if
45
you-
seconds she
if you
requested.
will
The
meet-
gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from
Mr.
New
Chairman,
Jersey is
I would like
recognized
to
for his
ask if
5
you would
minutes.
meet with the women who were sexually
Time does not belong-
abused and raped and groomed
Time does
at
not
the
belong
ages
to the
of
gentlelady from
14
Washington.
and
The time now
16
belongs-
years old. Are
the
you
time-
going to cover up?
No, I'm
Are
not
you
gonna-
going to
I'm
continue
gonna
to
recognize
cover
the
up
gentleman
for
from
the
New Jersey
rich
for
and
his 5
powerful
minutes.
men, including those that might be on this committee?
I can yell
Or
too,
are
Mr.
you
Chairman,
going
but I don't want to
to
yell
allow
above
them
this.
to
The time belongs
testify?
to the gentleman from New Jersey. I
Are you
appreciate
going
the
to allow
gentlelady
them to
yielding
testify,
back.
Mr. Patel?
Go ahead.
Will you allow them to testify to you,
Mr.
Mr.
Patel.
And the first minute of this exchange makes one thing painfully clear. Someone didn't expect to get called out by a woman who came prepared to walk through every contradiction, every broken pledge, and every door he tried to slam shut. Before taking over the bureau, he built an entire persona around transparency. He went on podcasts declaring that the director alone controlled the infamous Black Book. He insisted the public deserved to know who was involved, repeated it again and again, and warned that hiding anything would be a betrayal of victims everywhere. He said there would be no cover-ups, no excuses, nothing withheld. Even after stepping into the role, he doubled down, telling audiences in February that he would release every single thing the agency had. Every document, he promised. Every name. He positioned himself as the one person finally willing to bring sunlight to a case buried under rumors, sealed files, and a generation of unanswered questions. And that's where Jayapal begins. She pulls from his own words, stacking them one by one like bricks around him, a wall he can't climb out of. Not opinions, not speculation, his actual statements on camera in writing on national platforms. The story he told the world was simple. Trust me, I'll expose everything. For anyone who followed his rise, that promise wasn't just a talking point, it was his entire brand. He wasn't just claiming he'd be transparent. He was claiming every other administration failed, that he alone had the courage to do what no one else would. And by February, the base he built was ready for the grand reveal he kept promising. But then reality hit. And it hit hard. Because the moment he actually reviewed the evidence, the bravado evaporated. The July memo quietly announced something no one expected. More than 300 gigabytes of material had been uncovered. Hundreds of gigabytes. Enough data to fill entire hard drives. Enough to warrant a full public breakdown, multiple briefings, independent reviews. Instead, one video. A single polished presentation that curiously looked nothing like the all-access transparency he had sworn to deliver. And then it was over. No full archive released. No documents. No files. No follow-up. No explanation. Jayapal knows exactly what that means. So she doesn't waste time circling the issue. She goes straight to the question sitting in the minds of millions. Why did everything stop the moment it started getting real? Why did the Crusader suddenly become silent? And more importantly, what changed between February and July? That's when she brings up the reporting. Nothing definitive, nothing asserted as fact. Just what has been publicly said. Claims surfaced that the Attorney General had warned him in private that certain names appeared in the evidence. Names that would unleash political chaos. Names tied to powerful allies. Names that would guarantee a media storm. And according to those reports, that meeting happened shortly before the sudden shutdown of disclosures. Jayapal reads these details aloud, not as accusations but as questions. Questions he refuses to answer. Questions he phrases around. Questions he turns into a maze of deflections. And when she asks him directly whether he knows if the Attorney General spoke to the president about the files, he freezes. Not because he can't answer. Because he won't. There's no statute preventing him. No court order. Nothing classified. Oversight hearings are specifically for this purpose. Yet he still refuses. Not a single straight yes or no. Just a fog of half sentences, vague disclaimers, and evasion so transparent they only raise more suspicion. But that's only the first crack Jayapal exposes. The second is far more personal and far more damning. Because while all of this political maneuvering was happening behind closed doors, survivors were stepping forward. Real women. Now adults but once young teens, some only 14, who were groomed and assaulted in one of the most infamous exploitation networks in modern history. Some had never spoken publicly before. Some gathered their courage for the first time because they believed the new director meant what he said, that anyone, no matter how long ago, no matter how painful, could come forward and be heard. Jayapal has them in the room. She recognizes their strength, their bravery, their decision to show up in a place designed to intimidate victims. And she asks him the simplest question imaginable, a question anyone claiming to fight for justice should answer with absolute clarity. Did you meet with them? He didn't. She gives him another chance. Did you meet with any of them? He still didn't. She gives him one more. And the answer remains the same. He had time for the media. Time for podcasts. Time to build a public image. But no time, none at all, to meet the women whose experiences form the heart of the entire case. Women who traveled to Washington hoping for accountability. Women who risked re-traumatization because he promised the doors would finally be open. Women he ignored. And then comes the question that breaks the room open. Jayapal asks him point blank. Are these women credible? Yes or no? There is no trick. No complication. No nuance. A straightforward question that every survivor-focused official should be ready to answer without hesitation. But he won't say yes, he won't say no, he won't commit to anything. Instead, he launches into long explanations about previous administrations, repeats statistics that don't address the question, and suggests vague bureaucratic processes as if they explain his refusal to answer. Jayapal keeps pressing, cutting through the smoke, trying to get him to say a single word that would show he cares about the people harmed, not the people protected. Are they credible? He still won't answer. And that's the moment the entire exchange becomes crystal clear. Because if he says yes, then he has to explain why he didn't meet with them. He has to explain why he shut down disclosures. He has to explain why more than 300 gigabytes of evidence was reduced to one carefully curated video. He has to explain why the memo changed, why transparency ended, and why powerful men seem to be treated differently. If he says no, he faces an entirely different firestorm, one where he is seen as attacking survivors who already risked everything to speak out. So instead, he chooses silence hidden inside rambling. A refusal disguised as an answer. Jayapal isn't fooled. Neither is anyone watching. Because every time he dodges, every time he brings up unrelated years, every time he gestures toward old administrations instead of the victims in the room, the story he built for himself crumbles a little more. By this point the hearing is chaotic. Members interrupting, voices overlapping, procedural arguments erupting. But the chaos only proves Jayapal's larger point. The moment someone demands accountability for the reversal, the room becomes uncomfortable. The moment someone asks whether survivors deserve to be heard, people start scrambling to protect the witness's time instead of the victim's dignity. The moment someone demands clarity, the system's instinct is to drown out the question. Jayapal keeps pushing anyway. Because this isn't just about one person. It's about a pattern. Transparency promised, transparency denied. Survivors invited to speak, then dismissed. Evidence uncovered, then sealed. Questions asked, then ignored. It's a cycle older than this hearing, older than this case, older than this bureau. And every time it repeats, the same people are hurt, the powerless, not the powerful. And that's what Jayapal exposes so effectively. She isn't just challenging a director. She's challenging an entire culture of silence. She's showing how quickly systems move to protect the reputations of prominent men, while survivors are left fighting for scraps of acknowledgement. She's showing the difference between building a brand on outrage and actually doing the work when it matters. She's showing what happens when someone who made themselves famous for criticizing cover-ups suddenly becomes the person accused of orchestrating one. Why the final minutes? The question remains the same. Why was the door slammed shut when it finally mattered? And the only real answer the audience gets, the only honest answer, is silence. Not spoken silence, but the silence that comes from evasion, from nervous half-sentences, from refusing to say whether victims are credible. Silence that speaks louder than any statement he could make. Silence that contradicts every promise he built his reputation on. Silence that reveals what happened the moment political consequences became more important than the truth. And if you care about transparency, if you care about justice, if you care about survivors being heard instead of dismissed, this moment matters. Because it shows exactly how fast institutions shift when accountability threatens the wrong people. It shows why oversight is necessary. And it shows why voices like Jayapal's are so important, because without them, the silence wins. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss the stories others tried to bury. And drop a comment below. Do you think this reversal was about evidence, or about who the evidence might have implicated? Your voice matters here.